Today on No Greater Love with Pastor Jeff Cramer.
And in our time, check this out, in our time, there are many well-meaning people that have left the wisdom of God in the church, and they become too pious to participate in anything in this world, anything in these things, the civic duties that are here. And what do people end up doing? Well, they end up withholding their duty to vote against the cancerous lies. And what happens? It enables evil to spread even farther.
Through innocent blood, He showed His love, taking the cross for us. No greater love than innocent blood.
What happens when believers stop speaking up for truth? Welcome back to No Greater Love with Pastor Jeff Cramer. In today's teaching from Exodus 11, Pastor Jeff warns of the danger that comes when well-meaning Christians pull back from engaging in the world around them. Whether it's from fear, apathy, or a mistaken sense of spiritual purity, our silence can allow evil to spread unchecked. As followers of Jesus, we're called to be salt and light, not hidden away. Let's dive in now to the balance of national stability.
Yes, we have been redeemed.
And so, we're not to let justice fail, and we're not to fight against God. We're not to fight against our Creator. And here's one practical thing here that we can come to the table with, and it's just so crazy the way this happens, man. I love it. We're not a church that gets involved into the hey, sign these positions and work down this thing and make sure you're doing this. We're not on that political spectrum of that. We teach Jesus. We go through the Bible. We bring up the application points as they arise, so that we can gain a sense for our life and how to live it out. And this one, it was just right here, so I just took it. Practical application. Check this out. As Christians, we have a civic duty as citizens to our country. We live in America. We have a civic duty right here. Now, when I was saved and I came to Jesus, I was 21 years old, right? When God saved me. Up till that point in time, I tell you, I wasn't in this vein of I didn't give a rip about civic duty in any capacity. I was a young, wild kid. I just wanted to race my motorcycle and leave me alone, okay? I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. But as a Christian, I've learned over the course of time by those older believers that have gone before me, by again, just understanding what Jesus even teaches within the gospel in that sense that as he was questioned about taxes and all of these particular things, you render to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and you render to things to God that are of God. Understanding that Jesus wasn't drawing people out, he was commanding them to understand the order in which they were to live. And so too, when it comes to civic duty, take a look at the screen here. These are just simple things in the ways that you can demonstrate your faith. Now, faith in who? Faith in God. Faith that there is a creator. Faith that God has established an order in the different countries, if you will. There's a governmental order. There's a hierarchy of leadership, and we can understand this. And the way that we put it into play is very simply, we obey the laws of the land. You may not agree with every law of the land, but the reality of it is that if you decide to go 100 miles an hour down I-25 and pass through Denver, you're going to get a ticket at some point, right? Especially if you're driving in that little carpool lane thingy-mabobber and it's only you. I didn't try this. It was Justin, so, No, no, I kid. It wasn't Justin. Oh, man. And so we obey the laws. We pay our taxes, as I move through these things, please understand here, gang, okay? I'm not putting a heavy trip on you. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that we can understand that as we live as Christians, that there's some semblance of responsibility, right? God is first above everything. I don't think we need to have that conversation. I think you are well read within the scriptures and well taught within the scriptures. But this other area of the conversation of responsibility, it is a conversation that we need to have, because if you're looking just simply by way of statistics in the Christian community, in the Christian church, a lot of these things, the Christians just go, well, my home is not in this world. And that is absolutely true. This is not your final resting place. We're merely pilgrims and just passing through. But it doesn't mean that I get to take all of my trash and empty it out on the curb because it's not my permanent home. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that we have civic duty responsibilities as citizens within our country, and God has called us to obey the law, to pay the taxes, to go and to do jury duty. When jury duty comes up, are you ducking and dodging to get out of that? It's like, well, I got to go this, and I got 1,000 excuses. Oh, I got a cough. I can't go in today. I got to call in sick. Again, we're dodging the civic responsibilities that we have. And my encouragement to you is not to press you down, it's to lift you up. It's to take responsibility of that, because when you go, where you go, I should say, you're the light of this world. You're the hands and feet of Jesus. And as you're going out there and you're getting on a jury duty, I don't know if you've ever had the chance to do that, but listen, and you can ask my wife this, she'll give testimony. I get pumped to go to jury duty. It's like, yes, I'm going to see Jesus in court today, And we just do it, right? Registering with the military. I know that we're not under any active draft right now, but it seems like shortly after I had registered for the military that this is going back a little bit. It must have been a year, 2 years, 3 years after I turned 18, something like this. The war in Iraq, right? But I was 3 years down the line. I never got called. I thought I was going to get called. Yes, we're going to Marines. Let's do this. Could have signed up for it if I wanted to go that urgently. But the point is that we register. And I don't know what it looks like today. I'm so far removed from registering for the military. But I know that we have young people here. And I know that you guys, you have influence over children and grandchildren and all that stuff. And I'm just pointing you back to that aspect. Just comprehend the civic duty. Now we get to the final one. And the final one is I had no intention of doing this, but it was here. So I just took it. The final one is to vote in elections. Yep, that's right. Vote in elections, okay? Listen, when we do these civic duty things, we demonstrate, again, a vested interest in our country by living a godly life. That's all I want you to take away from that. That's all I want you to understand. I don't want you to go, well, pastor's beating me down again, telling me everything I'm not doing. I'm not telling you that. What I'm instructing you or teaching you or encouraging you in is to realize that you can make a difference. And that making that difference, it happens out in the community. It's great that you pick up trash inside the cafe or help clean up. That's awesome, right? But understand that it goes far beyond the campus here. We live our life out there, not in here. We're together in here. This is great to be Christians here. It's good to come in. Don't get me wrong with that. But we shine the light out in the darkness as we go out. And these are some of the ways in which we can walk through that. And so if we want a safe country, again, there's responsibility behind that. Now, let's come to the second idea of the night. Follow along here. Exodus chapter 11. I'm going to read verses 6 through 10. It says this. It says, then there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as was not like it before, nor shall be like it again. But against none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue against a man or a beast, that you may know that the Lord does make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And so what was going on? Well, God was making a distinction here as this plague was coming forward, the death of the firstborn. As he was making the announcement, he was telling the time frame here, right here at about midnight, all of this. But Moses was also making sure that Pharaoh understood and that his staff understood that while this is true and why this was going to happen to the Egyptians, it was not going to affect, touch, or impact his people. Very interesting on that. The hand of preservation that God was doing with his people is completely remarkable. It's a miraculous thing, both the plague and the sustaining, beyond that plague. And so we come to the second idea here again, and this is a declining country. So again, that first one is a safe country. Now, as we can take away a few things there about justice and about the things that exalts a nation and so forth, and even our responsibility, we come to a declining side here. Proverbs 29:16 on the screen tells us this. It says that when the wicked are in authority, sin flourishes, but the godly will live to see their downfall. I like the double side of that because there's insight and there's direction here that whether it's this country or another country around the globe, and whether it's in our time or after our time, or the stuff that has traveled before we've gotten here, if you will, please just understand these truths of God, the wisdom of God is still the wisdom of God. We can recognize that by seeing what God did with the land of Canaan. We call it Israel today. that we're right here in this beginning phases here of God taking his people out of Egypt, sending them on that coastal, well, I guess they didn't take the way of the Philistines. I guess they went down south and went through a little mountainous region and then up the Red Sea, okay? But they ultimately come into Israel. They overtake the land of Canaan and drive the people out because of all the stuff, the mayhem that was going on there. And we know this just by surveying a secular history, that the turnover of cultures and lands and people groups and all of that stuff is very real. The truth of God says that when the wicked are in authority, that sin flourishes. But the godly will live to see their downfall. And so the downfall of a country is what we come to. This is, it's evident. Now, this might rub up against your grill, and I hope it does in a powerful way, because it's truth that needs to be communicated within the church. Now, understand the big buckets and not the policies that don't have a morality thing that is attached to it, okay? So just hear the big buckets here. When a government pushes and redefines, the basic laws of creation, you're in the middle of a massive problem, okay? So how and how has this gone? Well, it's not new today. It's not even new this past few years, but it is stuff that is on the table within your country, okay? When all of a sudden, again, the redefinition of things that are going against the basic laws of creation, fighting against God. In our text, what was going on? Well, Moses was given direction to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh was fighting against God because he was pushing off of that. As we navigate through the totality of scriptures, again, and as we have a country, our country that we live in here, there are certain things that are in place, but there are certain things that are standard globally for all times, all ages, if that makes sense. What are those? Those last three of these on the screen. Gender. What is a man? Why are we confused about what a man is? Why are we confused about what a woman is, right? So when you start putting redefining gender, you're going against the laws of creation, right? Paul deals with this in first part of Romans 1. You see that. Second thing is marriage. We're in a situation here in our country where many have tried to redefine marriage, and surely there's a battle that's going back and forth and all of this stuff. But again, just understand this as symptoms or signs of a declining country. When we're at work, when a people group comes to the table to go against the basic laws of creation, you're fighting against God. And it doesn't matter what label you want to put on that policy. Well, it's a conservative thing, it's a liberal thing, it's a progressive thing, it's whatever. Understand, when you're going against the basic laws of creation, you have just picked a fight, not with the political enemy, but with a powerful God. That's right. This is what the scripture teaches. And then the other one is this, okay? So I'm just giving you three pillars: gender, marriage, and life. This thing that is pushed across to our young. Maybe, I don't know if there's any young people here in here, or maybe they're all in the back. But when it comes to, a life no longer happens at conception, we move around this thing of valuing the life of the unborn and all of these women's health issues. Ladies, I'm not looking to step on any of your toes or to pick a dogfight with you, but I absolutely will stand upon the principles of guarding life. And when it comes to this abortion stuff and these things that are bouncing around right now, and we want to be pro-choice and all that stuff. Listen, as a Christian, you're making the wrong choice. You're fighting against a holy God, and these are the basic laws of creation, and you will not win in that. Well, what about rape and incest? We're not in that conversation. We can't even get to that conversation yet until we start here with this. Because if you're looking for the loophole before understanding the basics of an all-powerful, all-merciful God, all-caring God, then you're moving in the wrong direction. You're making that decision from the wrong heart. And these are things that you guys, or globally, the body of Christ, the church, can stand forward in a life, or in this world, in your life, and that we can fight against a declining country by standing on the basic laws of creation. So these basic laws, I've called them basic laws of creation. Maybe we'll change the phrase here for a minute. The basic laws of civilization. Now, as I've laid them out to you, these are the fabrics of any society. And when these immutable truths are devalued, people are set on a collision course with disaster. Proverbs 11:11 says this. Take a look at the screen here. It says, a city is exalted by the blessing provided from the upright, but it is destroyed by the counsel of the wicked. And why does it seem like that when you're going against the basic laws of creation or the basic laws of civilization, that you always get the wise cat that comes to the table that thinks that, well, those are outdated things. It's not an outdated thing to be a man. It's not an outdated thing to be a woman. It is absolutely lunacy to be a man and pretend to be a woman, right? These are truths that are not going to change. Well, what about this person that is born with these particular? Listen, we're in a more deeper conversation as opposed to a general topical conversation of gender. When you start getting into those micro moments of dealing with, well, this person was born with two different types of sex things and all that. There's a different conversation to have in that. We're just at the basic conversation. And that basic conversation is one that must stand and go forward and realize that when it gets off the track, well, that God is going to destroy the counsel of the wicked. And it might not happen in a year. It might not happen in a week. It might not happen in 10 years. But gang, you can rest assured that it absolutely will happen. Now, let me make sure I pass this along to you, okay? Because we need the totality of the scripture, the Old Testament, New Testament, the full counsel of God, to be able to navigate with the right heart in the right principles, okay? I don't think God really cares if you have a red car or a blue car. I really don't. I don't think that God really cares if you have an electric car or a gas car or a diesel car. Honestly, if you're looking to give things away, whether it's a diesel, gas, or electric, I'll take them from you. So I'll drive all three of them. I don't give a rip. I don't care. I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. I know that God cares what type of phone you have. Apples have a special place within his heart or something. I don't know. Israel's the apple of his eye. So no, there's hope for Android users. It's just not, it hasn't come yet, but it'll be there. It's against the basic law of creation. Okay, I just kid, okay. I couldn't help it. I just had to roll that one out there. And so, okay, I'm going to try to reel this back in. I'm not sure. Okay, I found it now. Okay. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, don't go there. Just strike this. Just understand this, because I'm not going to develop this. I'm just giving it to you here. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, we have Paul. He's responding to those that are in Corinth. They've asked a series of questions to him about this, and what about those that are single by way of widowhood, and what about those that are virgins, and what about those that are single by way of divorce, and what about. Let's see, whoever's texting me needs to stop texting me here. Okay. And Paul gets to the place in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Search it out for yourself here. Read the chapter. He says, listen, I don't have a commandment from the Lord. He gets to a certain spot in this. He says, I don't have a commandment from the Lord. But in the wisdom that God has granted unto me, here's what I would say. Okay, so understand that Jesus did not deal with every nook and cranny of every nuance of things that would happen. But we do have this, and we can understand this, that in the corrupt system when Christ was on earth, the corrupt system of the Roman Empire, that Jesus commanded the people to participate, to pay your taxes. I'll flash the verse on the screen for you, Matthew 22 and 21, just for a reference point here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to understand it. They said to him, he said, hey, bring me a piece of money. Bring me a little coin. Okay, now whose image is on the coin? Okay, and they said Caesar's. What did he say to him? He says, well, render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. And so in this chapter, he does it a few times, about 3-4 times or so. And he's going back and forth, and he's contrasting as they're asking him all of these different questions, and as he's stating things, he's laying down how the wisdom of God is above the wisdom of man. And you and I can understand, again, in that corrupt system of the Roman Empire, when Jesus, he commanded the people to participate. And that is that if you're earning money and these are the coins that you're getting, well, then make sure that you're following the process. And the taxes then versus the taxes now, especially in the Roman Empire, man, they were way more burdensome than what you and I experience. And yet Christ was saying, comply to that system. And in our time, check this out, in our time, there are many well-meaning people that have left the wisdom of God in the church and they become too pious to participate in anything in this world, anything in these things, the civic duties that are here. And what do people end up doing? Well, they end up withholding their duty to vote against the cancerous lies. And what happens? It enables evil to spread even farther. Because when light does nothing, when we put, if we're light, if the Christian community is light within the culture, community, the world that we live within, and we put a basket over the top of that and we do nothing with those cultural responsibilities. We're not talking about biblical responsibilities. I'm a good citizen. I pay my taxes. I drive, according to the laws, whatever, okay? I better not say I drive according to the speed limit because I go faster than the speed limit. And so do you too, so don't lie, okay? Don't look at me like I'm a big sinner. Yeah, see, here's a sinner right there. There it is. Okay, but again, get the bigger picture here that's going on, right? Because by way of polls and all of these things, I mean, you see all these critics, I'm not voting for anything, and I'm just, whether it's this election or the 50 that have gone before this, probably not 50, we're only at 47, so the 40 that have gone before, okay? Yeah, you understand the big principle here, and that is that we become so pious and we miss it. Jesus tells us in Matthew 12 and 30, take a look at this. I find this to be just amazing. It's in the NLT version on this one. He says, anyone who isn't with me opposes me, and anyone who isn't working with me is actually working against me. Oh, he had some details there, obviously, that he was talking about that we're not in the middle of right now. But I want you to understand that there's no neutral ground. You can't just sit here and say, well, I'm just passing through this world and I'm waiting for Jesus to come. Yeah, you are. Watch. Don't miss it. Remember the parable that Jesus gave about the talents. To one guy, 5 was given, to another 3, and to another 1. You remember the person with the 1. You remember what they did. They took that talent, they buried it in the sand, and in the parable, as Christ gave it, he came back. Hey, what'd you do with this? Well, I knew you to be a very strict man, and you demanded more. And look at what I did. I just took it and I buried it. Here's your 1 talent. And in the parable, the response was, you evil and wicked servant. You knew that I was going to collect where I hadn't actually planted something. The expectation was for the individual steward. You're a steward of your life. You're a steward of the mysteries of Christ. We have a responsibility to live within this world. And as we live within this world, we participate within the country, the culture, the community in which we live within. There's no neutral ground. We stand upon that hill, if you will, to resist the evil tides of darkness. And as we're doing that, there's an impact. It is not up for us to determine the outcome, the timing, and those things. It is merely up to us to recognize the big picture of what it looks like to live as a Christian. Very simple. In church, I don't know if this is new information to people. I'm just going to assume that perhaps it is to some. But we are not judging our governmental leaders by how godly they are. And I think that the church completely tweaks that and gets that out of balance. It's like, well, did you see what they voted for? Do you see what kind of life that they had? And all of these particular things. That's not how you're judging a governmental leader, by how godly they are. What are we doing? We're judging those who refuse fundamental standards for civilization. That's where the voting comes in. Standards that are God-infused into the core of humanity. And when we reject this, we fight against God as our creator. And sometimes, because the person before us, the voter blocks or the generations that were before us, because they didn't do their job to maintain justice, sometimes you and I are stuck with selecting the lesser of two evils.
That's all for today. Join us for our next broadcast of No Greater Love with Pastor Jeff Cramer, weekdays at 10:30 a.m. No Greater Love is an outreach ministry of Westminster Calvary and is supported by listeners like you. If you would like to partner with us, please text GIVE to 720-354-6485. Your donation of any amount helps keep No Greater Love on the air, ministering to thousands across the Front Range. We would like to personally invite you to join us for our weekly worship services, Sundays at 8 or 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. We are located in Westminster, Colorado, on the northeast corner of Church Ranch and Wadsworth Parkway, near the Vasa Fitness. If you're not local, tune into the weekly live stream on our web campus app, Roku, or on Apple TV. Have you downloaded the free Westminster Calvary app yet? You can stay up to date on upcoming events, join a small group, request prayer, and watch live worship services. Just search Westminster Calvary on your favorite app store today. Lastly, we're a church that's ready to serve you. If we can do so, give us a call at 303-223-4640. And remember, there's no greater love than when Jesus gave up his life for you and me. Thanks, and God bless.